Hello, my name is Dan Garber. I'm an assistant transportation engineer here at the DOT. If you went to any of the in-person trainings, you probably recognize me. But in this video today, we're going through how to program your Carmanah speed sign. So with each sign, you would have gotten a USB containing all the software that you need. It would have, when you run the download manager, installation manager, it'll give you two applications. You see them here on screen, the SpeedCheck Traffic Analyzer and the SpeedCheck Manager. So the sign can collect data from cars going by, how fast they're going when they're doing that. And so you look at all that information within the traffic analyzer. What we're going to be using today is the SpeedCheck Manager. That's where you create all your schedules. So you want to go ahead and open that right up. And it'll look like this. It'll give you an application about this big. So to start programming your speed sign, you're going to want to go to the Scheduler tab here. You can do all of this ahead of time. You don't have to be connected to the sign while you're doing it. You can set up your whole schedule and then pull up to your sign later and actually upload it. It'll take about 5 minutes maybe. There'll be another video explaining how to do that. Once you're here at the Scheduler tab, the first thing to do is to open the Edit Operating Modes here. It's that top button. So operating modes is where we tell the sign how to function. So we're not telling it when to do anything yet. It's just when it's on, what do we want it to do, and when it's off, what do we want it to do. So the first thing to do is to create a new operating mode. So you'll click Add, the Add button down here in the bottom left, and you'll want to click through the pop-up. And you'll want to name it something like Sign On, just something so you know that's when the sign is operating. The first option over here, the display, you'll want to turn that on. That's just so that the sign is functioning. It will light up when this mode is active, and you want data collection to be on as well so that we can know what traffic is doing during that time. Now the speed limit, we'll set that to the speed limit of your school zone traffic, which should be 15 miles an hour. And the violation alert, I would set 1 mile an hour faster than that, so 16. So the violation alert is when that speed sign starts flashing. It'll have white LEDs on it, and they'll flash just to let people know they've gone over the speed limit. The slowdown speed here, I would say set to around 20-25 miles an hour. That's when the sign goes from telling you how fast you're going to just saying slow down. But you do have some leeway where you want to put that. So over here for the limits, the HS cutoff stands for high speed cutoff. And so that's when the sign just goes completely blank. You go over that speed, the sign stops telling you anything. We recommend about 30 miles an hour. This is in there so that people don't go for high scores. They know that the sign will either shut off or display a higher speed if you go fast enough, and so they will try to turn it off. So if you set it too high, then people will go faster and faster trying to turn the sign off. So we wouldn't recommend putting it over 30 since you want people going 15. And the minimum display, somewhere between 5 and 10 miles an hour. The minimum speed at which these signs are accurate is 5, so that's just when it starts displaying anything to the public, letting them know how fast they're going. Now your output mode down here on the bottom. A and B are the beacons for your speed zone setup. And you just set those both to on, just so the beacons are always flashing when the speed zone is active. And so that's the full setup for sign on mode. So you want to click to save changes. For a lot of the things here, they're going to give us pop-ups. Just because one thing or another isn't enabled or you're not connected to the sign while you're setting it up, you can just click through them. So if you're not collecting traffic data for when your school zone is inactive, you're done with this step. If you are trying to collect traffic data all the time, then you're going to need to create another mode and sign off or school zone inactive. Again, just following the same naming scheme that you've been set up for the first one. And so for sign off, obviously you want the display to be off so that it's not running, but you want data collection to be on, and you want to set the speed limit to whatever the road usually is, say it's 35 or something. And you want to make sure that the beacons are also off. And that's it for that. You hit save changes, and we can go on to the next step. It's important when you leave any of these windows that you hit Save Changes before you hit Exit. You just want to make sure you do that so you don't lose any of the work that you're doing. After you've gone through setting up operating modes, the next step is to move on to your timetables. We're just going to go down the row of options here. When you open up your daily timetables page, it'll pull up this window here. This is where you tell the sign what hours you want it to be on what modes of operation. So when you want it to turn on and off. So you'll start by creating one for a standard school day. So you click Add down on the bottom left again and click through the pop-up. And you'll want to name it something like Standard School Day. If you're doing this for multiple schools, you'll want to put the name of the school in your titles so that you'll be able to tell things apart. You just want to always be able to know what you're referencing later when you're making your schedules. So here on the left is when you choose the time of day that you want the sign to move to a different mode. So at midnight it's in all off, which is the setting from before that is built into the program for just nothing's functioning, nothing's turned on. So you click on the time box here where you, the number 2, and it pulls up this window here. In this window is where you set the time for when you want it to change functions. You can use it manually or you can just punch in the time. So you want the school sign to turn on half an hour before school starts and turn it back off half an hour after it starts, and then do the same thing at the end of the day. So it turns on half an hour before school ends and half an hour after school ends. So say school started at 7:30, you would start it at 7 o'clock a.m. and you would choose the mode to be sign on. And then at 8, change it back to off. And then you want to do that again at the end of the day. So when does school get out? School gets out at, say, 3 o'clock. So you'd start it at 2:30 and turn back off at 3:30. And so this would be your schedule set up for a standard school day if that's when you start at school. Obviously, it's not going to be exactly the same for each school. This is what it would look like if you're not collecting data when the school sign is off. If you want to be collecting traffic data all the time, you would have to choose your school sign off that you made in the last step. So you'd have to go back through and change all of these. And so with this setup, it turns to school sign off, which we had as collecting data, and it'll run that until midnight. And so for 1 minute, you won't be collecting traffic data. But then you would save your changes. And if you want to collect traffic data, say on the weekends, you will want to make a timetable called No School. And you're just going to want to set this to your sign off with your collecting data and save that so that you just have one where it's collecting data all day, even when there's no school. Now you'll want to set up one of these timetables for half days, for late starts, any kind of day that differs from your typical schedule that you know you're going to have that is built into your schedule but is not a typical week. Anything that's a different day from another day, really. Once you've done all those, you click Save Changes and you exit, same as before. This is again just that pop-up saying we're not connected to a sign. Everything you've done is only saved locally until you connect to the sign, which is fine. So you exit, you move on to the next step, which is your edit schedules. So this is the one where we say what days do we want what timetables. So you would add a schedule down here on the bottom, and you would name it the name of your school, or just standard school week. I was going to say name of school. That way, if you're doing multiple schools, you can easily tell them apart. And now, if you choose the Monday to be your standard school day, it'll auto-populate through Friday. Say you had Wednesdays were always workshop days, you would have created that timetable in the last step, and you would change that here. Choose that workshop day. So this is really the whole step. You're just setting what a standard week looks like. The next step is when we put in anything that's different from your typical week. So after that, again, you hit Save Changes and Exit. The last step here is probably the most lengthy, but it's Edit Exceptions down here on the bottom. So in this one is where we put in all the dates that are different from your standard school week. So this is where we do school vacations, holidays. If you have planned half days or late starts, this is where any of those things go. If there are things that happen weekly, you would want to do that in the last step, so you don't have to make an exception for each of them. So I'll just start for saying we'll make a list for when there's no school. Some people have been making different folders. One's for when there's no school, so one for holidays that stay the same every year, and one's for that always change, so that you don't have to go back through every year and change everything around. Because these exceptions are things you'll have to go back through at the beginning of the school year and reset to match your school schedule and the year's holidays. So once we're within that exception list, we've created that type. You have to set the dates that are going to exist within that type of list. So to do that, you go to Create New, and it pulls up this window here. In this window, you can choose the dates that you want it to be active. So let's say we were setting up winter vacation, December through January something. You choose the beginning and end dates. If they're the same, it'll just be that one day. If you make it the whole range, it'll auto-populate, do all of the dates in between. And then you choose the timetable that you're using instead of your standard one. So it'll replace each of those days with no school if it had a school day, or if you're trying to put in a half day instead of a standard school day, it'll replace that. But you have to choose the timetable that you want. Hit OK, and see it just drops in all of these dates automatically. And so that's one vacation set. You would have to do it again for spring vacation, whenever that is, and each of the individual holidays. So you do have to have a schedule and go through and do each vacation day individually. So you can do the spans all at once. Once you have all of your dates in for that type of exception list, for when there's no school, you, over in this last column, you want to select the schedule that you're putting them onto, these exceptions. This part's really important. So you want, in this case, the name of school. If you don't choose the schedule that you want to add it to, then you're going to be putting it on a schedule that you're not using, and when you send your school schedule to the sign, it's not going to have any of your exceptions in there. So this step is really important. Make sure that you choose the schedule up here. Once you've done that, you just click Add All, and it'll move over all of the dates that you've put over here to that schedule as exceptions. You can add them individually if you want, or only add a couple with adding selected if that's how you want to do it. Once you've done that, you'll want to make another list for any planned like half days if you have them. But just any days that are going to be different from your typical week, you're going to want to set up an exception list and create dates for them. There's no point really in setting up ones for snow days. If you're having a snow day, you don't want to send someone out to the sign to, update it. It's not good weather. People should just be driving slowly anyways, since you don't know when snow days are going to happen. And also linked to snow days is summer vacation. I wouldn't bother creating exception lists for that because you don't know the exact dates when it's going to happen. And you could just go out and upload a new schedule that's just all off instead of putting in all of those exception dates. Once you have all of your exception lists created, you will have to add the dates individually from each list. So just because I added all of the dates here doesn't mean the dates under half days will be added until I make sure to add those as well. But once those are in, you hit Save and Exit, and that's the whole process. Your schedule is completed. In the next video, we'll go over how to actually send your schedule to your device, connect to the sign, and get your traffic data from it.